Is the friendship doomed if one party begins to have feelings for the other?
Yeah,
Yep.
in my marriage, it would be doomed. With the type of wife I married, please, if you gave one potential, man, listen, my wife does not play. She's not on the call. My wife does not play.
Shout
Even
out to Erica.
even now, and this is why I'm big on respect. Man, Rhea best not text me at 3 a.m. I mean, that would be it wouldn't be about, is he creeping? Is he this? Or this?
No.
It wouldn't be any, but just out of respect, Andre better be bleeding to death. She just doesn't. So you just, again, you got to stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I've learned, I'm 42, about to be 43, been married 19 years. And what I've learned with women, and probably the same with men, but I'm just talking to the fellas. What I've learned is that, women change over the years. It could be platonic and undergrad, but life situations start changing the game, and you start getting a little success and a little salt and pepper in the goatee, and she start looking at you different. And then in your 30s, and you just always have to respect the situation, because some of the young ladies I knew in the 20s, totally different in the 30s, when life has kind of changed some things and you want to settle down, and next thing you know, you're in your 40s, you become more attractive. I think as time progresses, you have to be aware of that. I'm just a realist.
Amen.
Hey, everybody don't age the same, bro. I just want to let you know that. But I'm glad that you feeling yourself as such.
No, I'm talking about Kelvin. I'm talking about Kelvin. I'm not talking about.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. You both have aged gracefully. I'm very, very. I'm
doing all right. I'm doing all right. I'm a couple minutes away from 40, and I feel great. I feel better than I have. And speaking to, is it doomed from the friendship?
Yeah.
I'm gonna just speak to myself. If there's interest from me or towards me, it's doomed, because I won't even offer myself completely to this woman as a friend, because I know you want to holler. And in the back of my mind, the friendship stuff that I would like to, I've showed up as a friend in this world because I truly, truly value it. So I show up in the friendship the way that is fulfilling and rewarding. And if I know you got a crush on me, I'm about to be fake towards you, because I can't just genuinely hit you up and see if you got home safely, because then you're going to go pillow talk with your homegirls. How about, oh, he care about me. Like, yeah, I care about you, as well as the 30 other people that was at the house. But it has put up limits, and it has put up boundaries for me. And like I said, seasons have changed for me. Some personal changes have taken place. And I know now that the sideline was very heavy. The sideline was heavy, y'all. It was a heavy sideline. People, like waiting to get in. And I'm like, oh snap, I thought this was the homie. And then you be like, it was. And then you think about how you showed up in that friendship, because seasons of life do change, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I just think when you honor yourself, then you can show up as the type of friend you're going. And so for me, I say, if I ever I do have platonic friendships. I probably have 4, right? One of those 4 on some high school stuff was a crush coming my way. Like, this girl always crushed on me. Didn't really, just wasn't my steez. I had a girlfriend, etc. But through her persistence, ended up becoming a very reliable person that I respected, and we're still friends to this day. However, it took her getting a dude before I was actually able to genuinely be her friend, because I always had boundaries up. And for me, it was just no physical attraction. Dope human being, but I just wasn't physically attracted to her. But because I cared about her, I didn't want to show up as a friend. I put limits on a friendship, because that's kind of jacked up to know somebody like you and do things that they appreciate and value, knowing good and well that you don't like them like that. So when she got a dude, it actually allowed us to really be friends, because I know that now I'm safe. And so for women who have platonic friendships, if you like your homeboy, I'm the shoot your shot guy. I'm like, say it now and get it out the way. So and I thank God for Rhea, because it's just never been that. Like, there's been times where it's like, hold on, man. Like, Rhea's mindfulness is something that I value in a woman, just how but it's not like I want Rhea in that way. It's just like, to have that consistency is really dope. And then you know, like I said, when I met Rhea, there was another presence that was there. I didn't even know what Rhea looked like for about 2 years.
Oh, okay. You was on it. You was on the chase.
I was occupied. I was occupied trying to apprehend what I thought that God had provided.
It's all good, brother. I appreciate that fire in you.
Yeah. Nah, it's all good. You know, seasons change.
Yeah, for sure. But whose responsibility is it? So we both have talked about that. Ely made mention of the whole text messaging thing, and I know with both of you all, that was a choice that I made. So I knew that, hey, it's kind of an unspoken, and this is just a lesson in friendship, that if either party is committed, I don't know if it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, you set your own boundary, but I think like that. So yeah, I'm never trying to be the one that, you know, always trying to run to you with the good news first, or always trying to, you know, text it, everything. That was a boundary lesson that I learned because I had respect for your situations. So who do you guys think is responsible for that? Is it the man's job or the woman's job? If
Man,
you every time. That's good. You said it's the man every time. Calvin, E, what do you think?
I think both adults are equally responsible for setting the boundaries. And I think it depends on who you marry. If we're talking about married relationships, I mean, I can't emphasize how important respect is. And I know some guys that would easily say, listen, I have platonic friends, and I think my wife should understand. I would understand if she had a platonic friend, and it's no thing. I wouldn't be bothered by it. And I think that the typical, you know, male confidence and bravado creates a situation where they're thinking of a guy that is inferior to them. You know, he's not as successful as them. He doesn't look as good as them. He's not as strong as them or in shape as them. He's not as funny as them. But you have to put yourself in your lady's situation. What if she came home like, hey, I'm about to go to Starbucks with Boris, and he's, you know, cock diesel, definitely somebody you don't want any smoke with, funny, great personality, making that money. I mean, would you really be comfortable with them being in a platonic relationship and going and praying together? I mean, I just think that you have to put your spouse or put yourself in your spouse's shoes and respect whatever she needs to be comfortable in the relationship. And for some individuals, that's going to be 10, 15 different boundaries, access to your phone, know what's going on with your social media. And some people, it's just not a big deal. They've experienced it themselves, and it doesn't take all that. Whatever it takes, if the friendship is that valuable to you and your marriage is that valuable to you, you do what needs to be done. And you create your own list, but both parties have to buy in and respect it and give it the time that it requires.
You know, I'm glad that you said that, because that's exactly what I think God knew. And I think you keep hitting it every time when you talk about my gangster sister-in-law from New York. But the truth is, you got to know who you marry. And I think I can think of past relationships that it was not embraced, me having male friends, for that exact point, Ely. I don't know if it's insecurity. Some people are annoyed when people are just, you know, you run through them, you're like, what's up? Some people don't like that. Some people are very much not that way. And so I thank God for Andre, because he, not only does he have platonic friends, he doesn't have a lot. He only got a few that I could count on one hand, but he knew who he was married. He never one day, ever has he expressed an issue with that. And I know that I think when you are that type of person that carries friendships and that they mean what they mean to you, I think that makes a difference when you have a partner that embraces that and doesn't try to, like, you know, rain on that parade at all.
And one other thing I would add, Ree, I mean, like when we were young, I think it was okay to have what you may call 10 platonic friends. But when you're 40, that just don't exist. If you're 40 out here and you still talking about, I got 10 platonic friends, man, to the brothers anyway. I'm just talking to the brothers. If you're a brother with 10 platonic friends, I think you need to question, are you really a player? Or question, are you bisexual or something? Like, you're not gonna have no 10 platonic friends in your 40s. And I mean,
what is it? I'd like to ask that, because that's actually a viewer question. So let me read that, and then you're gonna have to clarify, because I don't know if I understand that. What is the expectation? So is the expectation once you turn 40 that you're just supposed to shave it down to a solid 3?
It's just that life is real. I mean, you have a career, you have your church commitments, you have children, you trying to figure out how you paying for college. I mean, you just have real life situations, and you have a lot of couple friends at that point in your marriage. If you still have like 10 single or what platonic friends that are just yours, and I have well over 10 platonic friends, but they're also Erica's friends, and we hang out as couples, we go on trips together as couples. That's not what I'm talking about. But if I had 10 Rias at 43 with a busy career and 3 kids, something's not right. That just doesn't add up, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that's why I said it's the man across the board, right? Because you got to think about the type of guy that wants to befriend your girl and you don't got his phone number. He'll never hit you up. And I think there's a mutual respect for a man that says, hey, this is my friend, and to have the friendship be out in the open. All that exclusively you stuff is work. And I've been a pastor for 11 years. So a lot of people I've had a lot of close contact with both men and women, you know what I'm saying? That when they get married, I had one sister, I would never, ever forget this. She might be on the call, but really checked me and was like, bro, you took your hands off of me the second I got engaged. You stopped being what I needed you to be. And we had a heart to heart. And in my mind, I'm like, yo, I'm a real one. I'm being everything that I can for you because I'm now walking very closely with the dude you get ready to marry. And him and I are still close to this day. But I think when men don't take their rightful place of leadership, it breeds grounds for dysfunction. And that dysfunctional dynamic, what you're talking about, is like where you do have guys. I know dudes that are our age or older that still care about skateboarding or the newest shoes or PlayStations or whatever this particular thing is, that I feel like, oh, that's why you got so much time to hit up the woman that I'm with, because you don't have anything going on. Therefore, we're not even equally yoked as friends. We can't do life together. And then I become the competition, because now husband is very husbandy or boyfriend or whatever it is, and then the fun friend stays the fun friend because we don't got nothing in common. So I think that when men are men and we set the tone and just say, hey, this is my friend, she's under my covering, or this is my girl, she's under my covering. But in order to get to her, it's through the boundaries that God has set forth on my life. It's through me. That's just how I feel. I'm looking at another couple on the screen. There was a young lady who was a very active member of my media team at church. And she was dating a guy that I know and respect. And I was like, yo, leave everything that you're doing with or for me and commit to him, because that's how it should be. And I think that setting the tone, man, it broke my heart to see the impact of what left when she did. It did hurt. We felt the impact, but now there's a lifelong legacy, because I think that the tone was set, is that nothing that you do for, with, or around me is ever as important of what you'll ever do in your relationship with your husband. And I just feel like when the men are on point, and it's probably the same for the women, you know what I mean? But I'm just speaking from my experience, you know what I'm saying? That it's a mutual respect, and there's almost a relief to be like, oh, at least I trust you, you know, because we have the same goals, same pedigree, you know. So I think it's important for the men to just be straightforward with each other.
Yeah, interesting. So I want to hear our polls, or we gonna do a different approach. I want to hear from the audience. Put in the chat if you guys believe, because one of the poll questions that came up was, can you still maintain your platonic friendships post-marriage for either party? Just hit us with a yes or a no. And I'm glad you guys both share that. I would love to open the floor if any of you guys have questions. I do have a couple other questions that were sent in advance, and I'll ask this. We already cut. Okay, so this one was, what is the most challenging thing that you've overcome in your life thus far? And now looking back, was it as bad as when you were in it? I think that, you know, one thing that you guys both were really instrumental with me through is just navigating through breakups. I think that I lived life as a single woman for many, many years. And I know that, you know, you guys have both put a lot of life into me when I wasn't really able to see that. And I think, you know, at the time, obviously, you know, and many of you guys on this call can speak to that. You think that you know, and I think that I just wasn't able to pick things up the way that I wanted to. But I think you guys have both been able to usher me through some of my darkest and toughest times. And I think, oh yeah, let me see, we have a chat here. But I think that was probably something that I've experienced that you guys have helped me out with. Let me see. There's a question. Go ahead, please.
I would say the most difficult thing that I've had to go through actually was this year. COVID-19 was the hardest thing for me. And I mean, Rhea, you know the whole situation. I mean, we went through. We were building a house, like a dream house. Had bought an empty lot, sat down with the architect, and was like, "Let's get it." And then, well, in an apartment, and COVID hit, and we were trying to sell the old house, and it was just a very stressful time in the marriage. And I lean on my wife when work is tough, and she leans on me. But at that time, she was trying to sell the house. I'm at work trying to battle COVID on a day to day, and she couldn't deal with the stress of me coming home and talking about seeing people die, and it was just a very stressful time, and I couldn't vent to my rib because she was crying every day because we had family in New York, we had an aunt die, and this and the other, and I felt like I really leaned on our friendship to appropriately vent about how stressful COVID was for me as someone that was dealing with these patients day in, day out. All elective cases were canceled. I'm building a daggone dream house, and my rib is struggling and crying every night about her family in New York and just the stress of it. And I needed a friend that understands that this is still appropriate, but I need to talk to somebody during these few months. And it all worked out, and God is the glory. I'm in the crib now, and you know, I look back and I'm like, wow, that was rough. But you know, Rhea, you were definitely there with prayer and conversation when Erica was going through a rough patch.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm glad. I'm grateful to God that you got everybody's good. You COVID free out there serving. Thank you for your service.
It's no COVID free. Y'all bet. Listen, it's no COVID free. It's real in North Carolina in our intensive care units. Just as you know, the health message. It's real.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Kel, were you about to say something to that?
Yeah, no, I was just saying to be able to have that dependency. This was the first time in our 17-year friendship. This was the first time that I depended on a new side of Rhea. And so Rhea became almost a life coach, cheerleading quality. And it was what I required, you know, at the time to say, you know, let's keep your eyes focused on you are not what you've been through. You know what I mean? And I never had that. Our friendship has always been,
the other way around.
yeah. Like, honest to God, it has been. It was like, you know, cool. I'm a subsidized because, you know, it's weird to say it out loud, but Rhea, how it feels to me, Rhea's almost like a daughter to me, almost. You know what I'm saying? And so it was like when she got married, that was the season for me to like release and be like, okay, she got it. But then I became little bro. Like I really felt like I needed that to get through a very difficult challenge. And so when life hit and I did not have the availability of what I once had, you know what I'm saying? It became available through my friend in those spurts in which I needed it. Coupled with like first person I said that has ever told me, hey, I'm always gonna be here for you, but you need to go to therapy. And here's a therapist phone number. And I'm like, golly, did I just get diagnosed? Did I just get best?
And you listen. So
and I listened because of who it came from. I listened because of who it came from. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got some dirtbag people that can care less about you, that want to see you stay where you at. And they'll just give you, you know what I'm saying, the type of advice to where they can continue to take whatever they're taking from you. But when you have a friend, the Bible says there's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. You know what I mean? And when that closeness surpasses your own understanding and you just like submit and yield and say, you know what, I'm gonna do whatever they say do because I trust who they are. And so that's a shift that I'm super appreciative for, that I never even knew was there. So
well, I'm
thank
grateful. We give God the glory for that, because he's
you.
working on us all. I know there's a question that popped up, and it says, can a single man and a single woman be platonic friends? So far, you guys have both spoken from the perspective of married men, but what if you're single and your homegirl was also single? Which is so good. I say yes.
I say right plan, wrong man. For me, you can't be that bad in my orbit, and nah. So
I say a quick yes. I mean, Rhea, Rushna, and Nadine. Those are my 3 platonic friends. I met Rushna junior high. I met Rhea and Nadine at Clark, and those to this day are the 3 that I have.
No, but meaning, so if you guys were
single.
not married though, like if you, what this question says is, you guys are spoken from the perspective of if you're married, but then
we all started off single, and it worked.
That's true. That's true. I think what they're trying to say in the, okay. So Kel, what about you? Does that mean, because the question basically, they just clarified it. It doesn't mean that you can't control jumping to the other side. Like you don't believe, if you're single and they're single and there is an attraction there, is it possible to just be platonic?
Yeah, anything is possible with God, but I know myself more clearly now. And so I don't want to walk that journey of faith. If I'm attracted to you and we are that close and we both are available and we kicking it, and there's a certain thing that happens at 39 chemistry wise for Kelvin that's like, nah, man, we shooting a shot this year. Like,
yeah,
so,
what's the point?
Yeah, so I'm not BFFing now. That season is over.
Amen. You got enough, right? Quota's up.
Yeah.
Amen. I love that. Was actually another question, was what is the expectation with adult friendships in 30s and 40s and up? Like, what does that physically look like?
Families, legacy, children together.
Yeah. Straight up. But that's good. I mean, that's where you are in your life. I don't know if anybody else on the chat has a thought about that.
I mean, I think that to me, that's a very traditional Christian perspective that I've shared in life, growing up in the church since like 97 and being a serious spooky deep Christian. But I have friends that are Muslim. I have friends that, are being ministered to that don't believe. I have friends that are, Rushna is Hindu. Yeah. And I just don't put limits on friendships and think that, just because I'm two attractive people come together. I mean, it can be so many different purposes within a friendship, and some of it is just to minister. It's just to have an experience. It's not necessarily a romantic pursuit. And those are still valuable friendships that God can get the glory. Or you can just talk about medicine or talk about whatever the interest is you have that are similar. It doesn't always have to develop into something romantic, and if it doesn't, then it's a waste of time, or you just don't have time for that. I would have missed out on so much if that were my limited perspective, and then I mean the word wouldn't be shared with so many people if that were the perspective.
I agree with that, because even regardless of my relationship status, I think I mentioned earlier, I really see friendship as a gift. And I think that if I were to capitalize on every person that I thought was attractive and vice versa, I'm like, it would be bad out here. So I'm like, I think for me, I've always been an advocate for friendship and an advocate for like just appreciating the element of friendship without having to take it somewhere else. So I think that's good. I mean, I love to hear the differences in you guys' perspective, because as Kelvin mentioned, depending on what season you're in your life, you may not have time for that. It's like, hey, I know what I want. I got this much space for quality time and, for building in this capacity. And that's it. And I'm working on legacy and working on family otherwise. And I definitely was not in that place until now. But I mean, I think it's great to hear that. That's great. Any other thoughts? There was another question that came in, and it says, can a guy and a girl who dated in the past have a platonic friendship later down the line? Like, what if down the line they're married?
Yeah, it's a strong no for me.
Okay.
It's a strong no for my wife. So, nah.
So what that's 2 or 1. She is you and you are her.
Yeah, that's a strong no.
That's my girl.
That's a profanity laced no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so what do you guys think? I saw a yes. Okay, Marge, yes. You want to chat on that, Marge? You want to unmute and tell us how? Tell us why. Tell us how people out there who might be struggling with that. How do you carry that friendship on? Because I know you've done it.
I have. Hi, everybody. So,
Hi.
Kelvin, you've talked about seasons. And so 20 years ago, you could be with a person and you have an attraction and you're in a relationship with them, but circumstances change, time changes, and you move on, that other person moves on, and you really find that you are better off as friends. Probably shouldn't have been dating in the first place, but people are young and people explore and get to know themselves in relationships. And so as time moves on and people have matured, you realize like, oh, we really do have, we're better off as friends. Now, are we friends that, like you said, are texting one another like daily and, are not respectful of boundaries? No, but we are friends and I'm here for you to support you if you need anything, and vice versa. And everybody is respectful. And I think it's key, especially if one or both of the parties have married other people, that that other person is friends with you and your spouse. So I think that it is possible, definitely.
It's on you, Mark. That's what I wanted to ask. Like, so it's on you to bridge that, to say, okay, this is somebody that's going to be in my life, and you make sure your spouse is cool with that.
Yeah. And I mean, there's different types of friends. So I'm not thinking of like a BFF that is always around, but it's still a friend. You consider them a friend if they ever needed you, or vice versa. You would be there for one another. You dated 20 plus years ago, but
I like that time.
He's moved on, and I totally believe that it's possible.
What's funny, I Miss Jade also had that question about going the opposite way from having a romantic, and this is just how in tune and aligned we are from having a romantic or sexual relationship, and then you realize you really were meant to be friends and go on to develop that friendship. That's excellent, and I actually do agree with that as well. But I think it speaks to a few things that have been mentioned on this call, which I'll bring up. It was like we talked about confidence, we talked about knowing who you with. We talked about experience. And I think if you, speaking to Kelvin's point, if you've always had the experience, or anybody else's point, where everyone has liked you, it's always been about a romantic interest, and you haven't really cultivated relationships that didn't have an expectation attached, then yeah, you might not be able to go in the reverse. But I think, like, I know for me, and I think depending on life experience, I've worked in several industries where there was just a lot of men there. And I think as women and men, some men and women, you lead with what gets you in the door, so if you always working, some people just have that magic, and if you always lead with that magic, then yeah, they're gonna be on you like leeches. But I think if you navigate in a way where you can present yourself in a way and deal with people as they are, and then keep it moving and not have to, I know some people who like to attach people to them. They like to keep that energy to them. They like to be the spotlight and be the apple of everybody's eye. And I think for me, whoever has dated me, I've learned how to balance that in a way where I don't take it and then run with it. And I think that's where it could be problematic. I think if you know how to value the sanctity of a friendship, keep it what it is, stay in your lane, have that confidence. Like if you're on the other side of it, I think it's possible too.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that y'all said that, because with Margaret, I love the time frame, the 20 years, and I also like the boundaries, because for me, that's not that will not be my running definition of a friendship. It'll be like I'm still cool with somebody, or that's the homie, or an acquaintance. You know what I mean? But in terms of friendship, it's that intimate space that is reserved for transparency, for openness, and for seasons of life to go through it. And when I hear friendship, that's what I think of, like that special space that's reserved. But I do think that it's possible. I'm just grateful for the clarifying statements you made that it's like, hey, it's this time frame and it's limited kind of access. But I think that's possible. So I'm gonna go from a hard no to a circumstantial maybe.
And I just want to touch on that too for Sister Margaret and everyone else. Like, I'm perfectly fine if people think that I'm immature or ridiculous or silly. But I'll just say, because Rhea, you said sex, and we're talking about platonic friendship. Listen, I mean, they say what you want. If a man has had sex with my wife 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, I don't even want him at the wedding. And maybe that's a immature perspective, but
you gotta keep it on Rhealism.com.
I can't deal with that one. Don't even come to the wedding, man. That's not gonna work. So again, we're talking platonic friendships and y'all still, continuing something, that to me that's inappropriate. And my wife is also a mature Christian, and she would not play that either if I had sex with one of my friends and now 20 years later I'm trying to make it platonic. That would be inappropriate in our home.
Mm-hmm. But that's good. That's why we're all different. Because I think for Kelvin, it was the 20 years. And I don't know. I mean, I think that's a good point, though, because I think what I heard in both of the questions, one involved sex, one didn't, but is when you come to the realization that you're just not, that wasn't a connection. It wasn't it. But I love to see the hard yeses and the hard nos, because that's how you keep a happy home for 19 years. Okay, somebody tell the people how to do it, E. That's good. I have another question that came in, and then we'll wrap up with our goodbyes and any other final thoughts. But the question is, what if your platonic friend does not push that connection with him and his partner? Do you push to connect? So I guess that means in the relationship situation, maybe the friend is not receptive and open. Do you then take the initiative? And that's an excellent question, because the truth is, not everybody friend, is rocking with who your friend has chosen for many reasons. So does that then become the responsibility of the person in the relationship to take the initial step? I think that's a great question. I think that's a conversation on who you're with too. I think it's everybody's responsibility, because if the friend's obligation is to their friend. They didn't sign up to become, I mean, God bless you if you're that mature. I definitely have that mindset, because I want my friendships to be long lasting. But for single friends, if this other friend is single, you don't think like that. You just like, this is my dog, this is my, confidant. So you're not necessarily thinking, let me go befriend the person that they're with. But if you are the person in the relationship, I think the person who is in between both, I really think it's their responsibility. I wouldn't even put so much onus on the spouse or on the partner, because you're the one in the middle. And I think to both of you guys, you have exercised that, and I know that I have. I think it's your responsibility to bridge that gap. I don't think.
Yeah, I think Rhea, you've done an incredible job with that with me and Andre. Like there's been times you hit me, hey, I know, what I mean, you might got the kids or not, but I'll babysit because, because Mark is cooking and barbecuing. And, when you go to Mark's house, they love you over there. And I want you to have that brother time with Andre. There's like, I love that. And in fact, it's really opened the door for those opportunities for me and Andre and we build on our own, but I think you kind of being the bridge builder has just made a more safe space and a more convenient space for us to be able to do that. So I think you've modeled that perfectly.
Well, I appreciate. I have to do that, and you know why? Because at the end of the day, you guys both spoke about covenant, and just like, I mean, I have to. This is my most important point for any platonic friend on this call that's either married or on the other side. You got to know your place and stay in your lane. And at any point in time, if the house is burning down and the person you married to is like, look, I mean, that's the priority. And so when you know that, then it's like, okay, I'm always thinking, hey, this is a relationship that I don't ever want to have to sever. So let me make sure, hey, bro, you say you love me, and whoever I'm rolling with, you rolling with, well, you better, put some effort. And I think I think all parties have an effort in that, but it was definitely my responsibility to put that, I think, into play.
And I came in contact with some amazing gumbo and beans and rice because of you, because of you doing that. So I thank God for you, my friend.
It wasn't all cooked by me. You're welcome. Yeah, so we are around. E, do you have any thoughts about that when it's a platonic friend? So the friend that's not necessarily receptive, if it was your friend, that, or not you, it doesn't have to be you, but just think about a situation where there's a couple and there's a platonic friend. What if the friend is not necessarily receptive to a relationship with that person in the pair?
I think it's exactly what you said. I think it's the person in the middle with responsibility. I mean, I invited you into the home. You came to my graduations. You were invited to be a part of the family. The same with Nadine. I mean, her and Lucas have been to beach trips with us. Rushna has been all over the crib and has a relationship with the kids. But I feel like I created that and felt like it was important for Erica to be comfortable with my 3 platonic friends. All my other friends are gone. And it's because I didn't have time to invest that in everyone. So you pick what's important and you push for it, or it won't work.
Yeah, I'm glad. I love how you keep rocking that strong 3. It's about keeping it concise. I'm not mad at that, brother. For those out there that do believe in friendship, what do you believe we can say the secret to longevity? Any final thoughts, any nuggets you want to share with the people? Let's leave it out there and see what we can share.
Yeah, for me, I think a true friend is going to always have the respect for the boundaries and to love what you love. So there is no friend of a person if they're not a friend of the marriage. You got to be a friend of the household. You got to be a friend of the moment. It was, I think I went through some difficult seasons with you where you were dealing with personal stuff, and it was so hard to stand there because I just was mad with what was taking place. But a real friend is going to be there with all of that emotion, with all of that almost disagreement, and say that we can come out on the other side. I think a friendship is a covenant. I think it's the highest form of earthly friendship is what we would call brotherhood. And so when I used to work friend, it's interchangeable with brother, you know what I mean? And obviously for you, my sister. So I just feel like, man, to be a good friend, like when your friend is married, you married to that marriage. When your friend is single, I remember there was a season of unemployment, and it was like, I was like, oh my God, like my friend needs money. So a friend is going to stick through that and make sure that their friend is covered. So I just feel like when you're able to do that, and I've received from that dynamic as well, but when you're able to do that, I just think it's the recipe for success, because there's no judgment, there's no heart, as long as ain't nobody getting hurt. And friendships I exist in, even when it's like, hey, you're about to get hurt and I'm not going to watch it. So you can do what you're doing, but I'm not going to be a part of it. I just love that. And I think that's the key, is actually committing to the friendship as an actual relationship in your life, something that needs to be nurtured, something that needs to be, poured into, needs to kind of have those come to Jesus moments. And that's kind of my 2 cents on platonic friendships, is you got to manage them things unless they're going to fall or turn.
Yeah, for sure. E, do you have any thoughts on that before we wrap?
No, my main thing is just, if it's God's will, it'll work. And you have to stay in your lane and let friendships, relationships evolve to what God wants them to be. And that's not to be spooky deep, but it's just a reality. Life is busy. You're trying to get your money. You're trying to raise your family. You got stuff in the community. As Black men, we need to be out here doing a lot of things. So, it's okay for a relationship to have a 5-year season, a 10-year season. Don't be pressed to hold on to something that's not meant to be. And if it's meant to be, you nurture it, it'll grow, and it'll last for decades. But, we can't think that we know everything about the ins and outs of God's purpose. But when you find a valuable thing, let it grow into what it's supposed to be, and keep it moving, because we have a lot of work to do as a people. It's more important. And I thank God for Rhea. Goodness gracious, it's been 20 plus years, and I'm here doing the Zoom call with her, and I have a happily married wife downstairs waiting on me to come and eat some bonefish. And it's been 19 years of a beautiful marriage. And I cannot say that that's anything but my Lord and Savior. So I'm thankful for that. And if tomorrow he changed the game, then the game changes tomorrow.
Tell Erica I said, hey, sister. Enjoy that Soul. Everybody watch Soul. That thing is awesome. I'm so glad. Yes, I definitely want to say that I would, for me, I think the keys that stick out is just being honest and respecting. I think respect is huge. Respecting boundaries, respecting your place and your position. And I mean, I'm not trying to be spooky deep either, but God is so interwoven through who I am. I am definitely a believer, but I know that you both have been so instrumental in building my relationship with God. So I think for me, that's been the secret to long lasting friendship, is praying for my friends, you know, my married friends, my single friends, the friends that I've been blessed to get through Andre. I mean, so many of you are on here. It's just been a blessing. I think that's really the heart of what my intention was, is to always advocate for keeping our friendships strong and just being intentional. I think that's another thing, is not just assuming because we've been tight for all these years that we just tight by virtue. I think that does stand for some connections, but in some cases it's okay to also be intentional and to continue to invest. So I'm just grateful that you guys have done that for me. All of you guys that have showed up for me, I appreciate that. I love you. If anybody else has anything to say, you got a few minutes to do so, and then we can wrap this thing up. Thank you for joining. We will be, just to plug, we will be continuing with our Purpose Conversation series. I have several responses that, you know, everyone was so floored by the last one. So for you gentlemen that were on my panel, we got a request to have a part 2. We got a couples one coming up. We have several topics. We're going to get these guys in here and get some women in here too. And I am just here for all of it. So just please, please, please stay connected to me and support for the topics that matter to you. And I appreciate all of you, and I love you so much. And thank you for spending my birthday with me, not in a club.